YouTube. So today, while I was on stream, we talked all things the Oscars that happened last night. And this video is more not necessarily talking about the nominations or the winners, but more my overall thoughts and feelings about last night's show and the Oscar and the Academy in general, and kind of what I believe that they should be focusing on moving forward, and a bit of my gripes with them. But it's not necessarily always about me. I want to know what you guys think. Do you agree with any of my takes? Do you consider them hot takes? Do you think that this is something they should be getting aboard with right away? I want you to let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button, you hit that like button, and you hit that bell to keep yourself notified for any other time I'm talking about movies and film and all that good stuff on this channel. And until then, you know where to find me. So, I want to chat about the Oscars, some of the categories. But before I start, I want to make it known that out of the 10 nominees, I've seen 3, 4, 5. So I saw half of the list, and I know that's a bit of slacking on my part. I get that. But in all fairness, one, I never had any intention to watch Amelia Perez because I hadn't heard a single positive thing about it. So I really didn't have any intention of watching it. And then some other ones I was having a hard time finding in a theater near me, and that's kind of my preferred way to view. I know I should have dropped down to crunch time and just watched them on streaming. And then The Brutalist, I didn't go out make out to see it because I just couldn't find the time to drive 30 minutes to go to the theater to watch a 3.5 hour movie with 30 minutes of previews. So that being said, I got my list of nominations. I can look at the nominees and the winner, all that good stuff, and I got my notes. So, but like I said, I did not get to finish the award ceremony last night. I started right on the dot. I had probably 20 minutes left on the red carpet, and I watched all the way until probably about 10 o'clock or close to 10, maybe even just after 10. My first two notes about the Oscars are the opening being too long and then the opening monologue being too long. And that falls into the longer thing about just me, being tired after a long day, and falling asleep or going to bed before the award ceremony is over. The Oscars have a big problem, right? That problem is that they are too long. It's too long of a ceremony. And before I start the complaint, I don't have the answers. I'm self-aware of that. But this is a problem that they really need to fix sooner rather than later. And I know it's an issue they've been juggling with consistently, but they really got to get on the ball with this. It's too long, and then they do this thing where they give time to things that isn't necessary. One, I appreciate the singing and artistry that is the wicked music, Cynthia Erivo, and Ariana Grande. That being said, I do not need a 10-minute opening that is revolved around one of the 10 nominations of the movie, right? That's one. I loved it. And taking it out of the thing, great performance. Two, the monologue, the hosting. I'm not a fan of Conan O'Brien. I don't think he did that well, but it is what it is. The monologuing at the beginning, I understand it's them for there to shine a light on their profession ability. Let me kick it. Ready? The Oscars are getting too long. They already are too long. And they consistently dive between doing things that are pointless and then not giving things that deserve more time. I'll give you an example. Things that were given too much time. The opening did not need to be 10 minutes long. You could have given us one 3-minute montage song that Ariana and Cynthia could have both shown us their expertise on. Two, the opening monologues for hosts. I understand it's a spotlight to showcase their ability to essentially lead a function like that and show their comedic prowess because they traditionally choose someone of a comedic background and to kind of set the tone for the night. And maybe highlight some of the things that we're going over. Too long. It's too long. Especially after a 10-minute opening and you have another 10-minute monologue, it's too long. My bigger issue with that is that then they go and do things like they give a James Bond tribute, which, quite frankly, unless I miss something radical enough to quantify it, there was no reason for them to give a James Bond tribute there, which was like another 7 to 10 minutes long. It's too long, and that is completely unnecessary. My bigger caveat and frustration with it is I understand that you have to do three things. You have to entertain your audience both in the theater and at viewers at home. You have to celebrate the film industry, and you have to give out awards and let people give speeches. My issue is the point of the night is to give awards to what we or the film going body, not we, but the voters consider the best films of the year. The fact that we are giving time, elongated amounts of time, to things like openings or to presentations, monologues, to musical spectacles at an award show that's not for music. It's not about music. But then we are consistently playing off people who are giving acceptance speeches for things that, you know, they may never be on that stage again, or, you know, they may never be in a position to give that type of congratulative speech to the academy, to their fellow peers and stuff like that. That really bothers me the most. Because if you're going to go long, be long because you're giving the people their dues for the thing you're rewarding them for. You're basically like, here's your trophy. Okay, go. That really bothers me because you're already pushing like 3.5, 4 hours long, and you're pushing that time frame, and not a lot of that always equates to the acceptance speech, which kind of bothers me. I understand keeping reasonable acceptance speeches, but this whole cutting people off, especially when they're in categories that we, the public, or the academy deem not as important. We can agree to disagree on certain categories. I'm not saying that, but that really irks me. So yeah, I think this is a problem that the academy really needs to get in front of. Finding some middle ground of speeding up the program or not putting in. I know if we don't put in that boom pow pop stuff like performances, it can dilute the viewership. I understand that. I love you too, babe. I understand putting in the things like that for the viewership at home or to entertain your guests while you're there, but it really bothers me that we're giving that, and what we're trading is people who are earning awards being pushed off stage after talking for 35, 40 seconds, especially when you're giving out two awards in the same, like, hosts were coming up last night and giving out multiple awards. Selena Gomez and Sam Jackson came up and gave out two. Andrew Garfield and I feel so bad I'm blanking on her name. They came up, and the nice lady he was with came up and announced two awards. So you're speeding up those winners even faster, and that really aggravates me. So if it's going to be long for the sake of the fact that you're giving people time to appreciate the prestigious award you've just given them. If you're trying to make it not long, or if you're trying to cut down time and do the thing that I believe is the one thing you should give time for, you need to cut out all of this extra shit that's happening. It's a tough pickle they're in. I understand that because you have to keep people engaged, but also it feels wrong to shoo people off stage like that, with the exception of Adrian Brody, which, by the way, has the new world record for the longest acceptance speech because of last night at 5 minutes and 40 seconds, which is absurd. I understand you have a list of people to thank. It's insane. It's insane. Also, while we're talking about award speeches, another thing, some cringy moments that happened last night, all of those cringy moments take place during group acceptance speeches, I would argue. I think it's strange that, and I know I've never been in that situation, so I can't, judge or say what I would do, because in reality, it's like this grandiose moment. You've been nominated as a pair of group, whether it be the 5 traditional or the 10 in the big group, and you've been awarded this nomination alone to this prestigious award. That's already a big deal in itself. But then to win, that's a lot of emotion and a lot of stuff to talk about. So I get that for sure. But my issue is like it feels like these people who know they would accept awards as a group, they don't come together with some consensus of like a group leader, someone who could speak for them as a unit. That way, I greatly appreciate the follow. Thank you so much to BB Alexis. Appreciate you. And that's my biggest issue right now with the Oscars is that one, they're too long, and two, some of the time frame in which they're too long, I would argue, is given to pointless things on screen. You know what I mean? So there's that. Now, that being said, I kind of want to go over it. Like I talked about the opening, a little too long, in my opinion. I loved it. If we take it away and just create it as a performance, fantastic. Cynthia and Ariana Grande, especially together, they will never disappoint. They're phenomenal, phenomenal singers. They'll never disappoint. The monologue, too long. That might be a bit biased because I'm not a particular fan of Conan O'Brien. I've never found him particularly funny. It's nothing against him. That's his comedic timing and how he views comedy, how he, pushes out his comedic value and how I perceive it. Nothing against him. That's just me. I think it's too long. But that being said, there were some interesting highlights of how they kind of formed it because it's clear they are trying to do a good job at televising more of the awards, whereas opposed to just 2-3 years ago, we were giving out what 10, 12 awards, 15 awards off screen while cameras weren't rolling, while nothing was being shown to the public, and people were just, they were just being announced online, or you would find out the next day, kind of thing. So I appreciate that they're trying to find more time to give awards on live television to more of the nominees, which I like. I appreciate. And I like how they did it, where it was like they understand that there are 7 or 8 categories that are the really, 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 really looked at stuff, and then they know that the other stuff is still important, yes, but it's not the stuff that the common viewer is there to watch. And what I like that they did this year is that they opened with supporting actor. I thought that was really smart on their part. I thought it was a good decision for them to open with one of those quote unquote more visually appealing awards, and then kind of shuffle in some of the other stuff where they would they did the best actor at the beginning, then they did some of the technical stuff, probably about, I think they gave out probably 4 to 10 awards. Then they did best supporting actress. So they sprinkled all those in. That was good on their part. I think they did a good job with that. Then we kind of went from that and we circled into the Bond tribute, which was a big, from what I watched last night before I went to bed, it was the biggest why are we doing this moment of the night. And it was very random. It was so random. I don't understand. Yes, the Broccoli's no longer have control over it. It is fully in Amazon's hands. That is no quantification for why it should get a 7 to 10 minute tribute. If someone can, feel free to tell me otherwise. Maybe I missed an anniversary for the franchise or something. But if that's the only reason they decided to do this, it's ridiculous. Because nothing about a Bond movie was obviously nominated. Nothing's going on in the Bond franchise for the last couple of years. So I have no idea why they did this. It's truly random and appalling. And it was the biggest waste of time of the night. And that's saying something. But yeah, the James Bond tribute was strange. It was out of place. I don't know why they did it. And it's a perfect example of the Academy wanting to entertain the audience, but doing things that are just a complete waste of time. Anyway, actor in a leading role. Adrian Brody won. He is a fantastic actor. I have not seen The Brutalist. That being said, also, I am no actor. Adrian Brody winning a role when it has now been publicly announced that AI was used to enhance his accent, I believe is not okay. I believe the part of acting, and I could be wrong because I'm not an actor, part of acting is getting the dialogue down or the dialect for the country or place of origin for the character that you're playing, right? It bothers me that an actor presumably did a good job in the film. They then AI was then used to enhance his accent, which I believe is a part of acting. I believe, and I don't know if he was aware of this when it happened, if he was aware from the get they were going to do this, that particular portrayal should be disqualified. Because I believe that learning the dialect, getting with the dialect coach, learning the dialect, learning the language of that part says something about your intensity to learn that role. So, in my opinion, I don't believe Brody should have won because I don't believe he should have been nominated. Because I believe once you use AI to enhance any form of your performance, you should be disqualified. Point blank, period. You should be disqualified. And that's where I stand on that. So he's a great actor. I admit that. I think he's fantastic. I've seen him in a lot of great stuff. I do not believe he should have won this award. I don't believe he should have been nominated. As soon as it became aware and been made at all, and even if it was just in the industry, as soon as it was aware that AI was used to enhance his accent, it should have been taken away from him. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. If you don't feel about that, that's completely fine. That's a discussion I'm happy to have because I'd love to hear what other people think. But that's personally my opinion on Adrian Brody winning and being nominated for actor in a leading role. Right. My issue that I'm seeing a lot of is the recency bias of the academy and the voting pool that goes into the academy, which is if it wasn't put out 2.5 or 3 months before the award season, if it wasn't put out from October to December, I feel like the Academy regularly ignores it. And that is also a big thing that I believe the Academy needs to look at. They need to find a way to make sure they are properly giving films throughout the entire year their fair shake, even if they didn't come out right before the award seasons or right before nominations went out. And they need to make sure they are vetting that their voters are actually watching their films. I am not a voter. I'm just a spectator. I'm just some guy who talks about it on the internet. It's understandable how I feel and how I haven't watched everything. I gave you guys that. If you are voting for this award, you should have been able to sit there and say you watched every film or every performance that is nominated in the category. If you cannot say that, you should not be voting. It's that simple. Let me say it as clear as day. If you are part of the voting body for an award, you should be able to say you have seen every film or every performance that is being nominated. If you cannot, you should not be able to vote. Period. It is completely unfair that films or actresses or actors are being passed up because members of the voting body are simply not watching things. We all know what I'm talking about. It comes out all the time that people did not watch all their screenings because they felt some sort of way about particular films. That's not the point. You are now a judge. You are supposed to take all of that in, regardless of how you feel from trailers or your own bias or the public opinion. You are supposed to watch every film and then vote on them unbiasedly. So that's my issue. They need to find a way to properly vet and make sure that their voting body is watching every film and giving everything that's been nominated by the Academy the fair shake. So, the biggest award of every year and the only category that has 10 nominations is Best Picture. The nominees were Wicked, The Substance, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, Amelia Perez, Dune Part 2, Conclave, A Complete Unknown, The Brutalist, and Honor. Now, before I continue on, I've only seen half of this, so keep that in mind. And then one of them I have zero intention of ever watching, which is Amelia Perez. I am truly, in my opinion, puzzled that Honora won over pretty much anything in the category because I personally don't believe it should have been there. But in particular, once again, I believe that recency bias got the best of Dune. Because, in my opinion, Dune was the best film of the year. I don't think anything comes close. Um, and I think it's crazy that it barely got the nomination and it got left out of so many other categories. So, for Best Picture, Honora won. I don't agree with that personally, but I kind of saw it coming because it's been doing really well in the award circuit. I think this, and this is the biggest thing here to take away, I firmly believe, in case you haven't seen it or heard me say it yet, I firmly believe that recency bias in the Academy is killing the voter body and killing any hope for any true Oscar contender to be dropped at any point in the year besides the last 2 to 3 months. They need to find a way to overlook this recency bias because it's getting out of hand. This isn't the first time this has happened. I feel like it happens a lot where really, really great, fantastic films are dropped in the beginning half of the year and they are completely forgotten simply because of how far away the Oscars are. It needs to come to a close. It truly does because it is so egregious to me that films can come out in February and March and be forgotten about simply because they came out that long ago. This is what the Academy needs to fix. Are you ready? They need to, one, make sure that the entirety of the year in film is getting its fair shake. And two, they need to make sure that they are properly vetting the voter body. If you haven't seen everything, you don't get to vote. You can't be the judge of 5 things if you've only seen 3. You can't be the judge of 10 things if you've only seen 5. I've only seen 5. I didn't vote. Do you see what I'm getting at? The Academy needs to figure this out. Please, Lord Jesus, they need to figure it out. So that is that. Overall, my takes are they need to figure out the length. They need to stop putting in things that are irrelevant to the film industry as far as musical performances. I understand you need to entertain your guest and entertain your at-home audience. That's not the point of the awards. If you're going to be long anyway, you need to stop playing off people who are accepting awards, some who may never be on that stage again. It's quite frankly rude and a little disrespectful, and I'm not a fan of it at all, and they really need to knock it off. There are exceptions, like 5-minute and 40-second acceptance speeches. You know who I'm talking about. And I don't believe, my other thing, highlight is that I don't believe that Honora, in my opinion, should have gotten the level of Oscar hype. So obviously I don't believe it really should have won any of the categories it won in. But that's just my opinion. If you feel differently about the film, that's great. You perceived it differently than I did. It hit you in a way that it didn't hit me. To each their own, and I'm totally cool with that. If you thought this was the best film of the year, that's a thumbs up for you, and I'm glad you saw it that way, and it was a good night for you if that was the case. That's just not how I feel about it, alright? So, with the Oscars out of the way,